Today we're installing a 6-position chip on a 1999 7.3 liter Ford. This is a TS part number 1180401. This is one of the first performance modifications that we did to any truck at Thoroughbred Diesel years ago. This is still our go-to performance adder for the 7.3s. This fits the 1995 all the way up to 2003 F250, F350, and then the certain years of the Excursion 7.3 liter trucks. Again, this is part number 1180401. We can do these for all the way up from a 95 to 03 7.3 liter, as long as it's in the F250, F350 trucks or the Excursion. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our install. Before we do our installation, I'm going to kind of do a little unboxing here of what you get when you get your TS chip. So you will receive a white box. Inside the box, you will receive your instructions, your installation instructions from TS. A Scotch-Brite pad. This is very important, and we'll go into that here in just a second. Your switch. This is your switch, your 6-position switch for the chip. And you will also receive the chip itself. Now the chip will actually have a card inside the box that will tell you what programs are in each position on the chip and what program is on the chip itself. And we're going to go into that more in our installation video. So let's go ahead and get started with our installation. Our first step, and the absolute most important step, is to remove the batteries. If you do not remove the batteries on the truck before you do the installation of the TS 6-position chip, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to fry your PCM. It is very, very important. First step is to remove both battery cables. We remove both battery cables, the positive and the negative, off of both batteries. We isolate them completely. Do not have any positive power going into the PCM whatsoever before we start our installation. So you can see that here. That is the most important tip. Don't try to do this installation on this. Don't get excited, run in and go ahead and skip to the part where I remove the PCM from the truck. Do not do that. First step is take your batteries, unhook your battery cables, or you'll have to buy yourself a $300 or $400 PCM. So, okay, second step on our installation of our TS chip is to unhook the PCM wiring harness. The PCM wiring harness is located against the firewall on the driver's side underneath of the hood of the truck. There are two wiring harnesses beside of each other. The one closest to the fender well, to the driver's side fender well, is actually going to be the PCM harness, and it's at the end of my finger. To get the PCM harness off, it has a 10 metric bolt in the center of it. It's too hard for us to be able to reach here with a camera. This is the best shot we could get. What you'll need is a 10 metric shallow well socket on a 1/4 inch ratchet. If you can get a 1/4 inch ratchet that actually has got a swivel head on it, that will actually work the best. You'll actually reach your hand through the wire loom here like this to loosen the bolt. So we're going to go ahead and loosen the bolt, and it'll just thread out of the PCM, and then the rest of the work will actually be done inside the cab to remove the PCM to gain access to the slot where the chip is going to be installed. So now we're going to go ahead and unbolt the PCM harness. Now we have moved inside the truck to remove the PCM. The PCM will be located on the driver's side of the truck inside the cab underneath of the console. There's two 7 metric bolts that hold the PCM in. If it's an automatic truck, you can just remove these two 7 metric bolts and just rock the box towards the passenger side, and then it'll pull straight out. This is a manual shift. For the manual shift, it won't give us enough clearance to be able to move the box. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remove the box and the frame all in one assembly. You can do this with an automatic too if you wind up having trouble with it. The frame itself has got two 10 metric bolts. It has a 10 metric nut right here on a stud, and then above it back here is a 10 metric bolt. You'll need a universal to get that off with a 10 metric. So we're going to go ahead and remove both of these and pull the box out with the bracket all in one assembly. Okay, now to remove the PCM and the bracket all in one assembly, just pull it straight down and it'll come right out. Now to remove the PCM from the bracket, remove the 2 7 metric bolts. Now we can simply remove our PCM from the protective cover, remembering which way it's oriented. So the sticker side on the PCM itself is actually pointing towards the kick plate wall over by the emergency brake. So now we'll remove our PCM from its case and we'll take it and get ready to clean the contacts. We're going to have a lot of information in this section of the video about the PCMs, because this is where a lot of the mistakes can be made in your chip installation. So your PCM is located in this protective case that holds it to the bracketry inside the cab of the truck. On the PCM itself, there will be a plastic cover here and also the neck of the PCM. These have the ECM codes, the flash that's in the ECM. So this truck was a late 99 standard shift. By everything that you'll read from TS's website and off the internet, a 99 calibration with a standard shift should be an AWA ECM code. Pulled this PCM out of this truck, and this is actually a DAC2, which would be for a 2000 manual. So could have been a late, production run or something like that. But the importance of this is always when you pull your ECM out, or when you pull your PCM out of the truck, check your code, your flash code, your ECM flash code that's on here, and double check with what we've sent you. Now on the chips that we send you, we'll actually write what's burned on here, so we know this is a DAC burn. And also on the chip card itself, we'll have the code that it's burnt to, and we'll also have the tunes that are burnt onto the chip. So the code that is burned on here, and then the different tunes that are on the chip in the different positions on the switch. So, but we're going to go into that some more. So on our PCM here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to begin cleaning the contacts for the acceptance of the chip. So to gain access into the PCM, there'll be a black plastic cover here, and it's actually got our code on it as well, our flash code on it as well. Remember, double check that, and if you've got any questions on what you've received or what you've received and whether it's going to work with your truck, just give us a call with the code, and we'll be glad to tell you. So you just pop the cover off of here. And here is the contact point that the chip is going to make, where we're actually going to be installing the chip. Both sides of this will be making contact, and that we'll be installing the chip on. So there's a dielectric grease on here. I don't know if that's the proper word for it. I don't know if it's actually a dielectric grease, but what it is, it's actually a harder, a waxy substance that protects the contacts on the PCM. So what we've got to do is we've got to remove that. And what I'll do is you'll have a pad, and a little emery cloth pad that'll come in the chip. This will actually come in your chip box. You can use it to remove the waxy substance if you like. What I'll do is I'll take a pocket knife, and I'll just real easily just kind of peel that first layer off, making sure not to dig into the contacts or anything like that. Just the bigger part of the layer there. I'm going to remove that top layer before I hit it with my emery cloth. Okay. Now I'm going to take my emery cloth and I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning. This is one of the most important parts of the installation, because you have to get the PCM contacts clean or the chip won't make contact, and you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to have check engine lights, and whatnot. And that, again, that goes back into, that also reminds us that our flash code that's in our PCM, if you install a chip that has the wrong code, say you put an AWA chip on this DAC computer, more than likely you're going to have a check engine light, maybe a no start condition, your wait to start light's going to stay on. So that's why it's very important to make sure to verify the code that's on the chip that we send you. So back to the contacts. The contacts are the most important part of this, because you've got to get these clean so your chip makes good contact here. So what I'll do is I'll clean with the Brillo pad. Some people tell you to take it down to take it all the way down to the copper to make good contact. I don't like to do that, because that's actually taking off an upper layer of the board itself. I don't like to do that, so I just take it down to silver on my emery cloth here. What I'll do is I'll double it up and then bend it and get it on the chipboard here, and that'll make enough pressure to get to the back side of that to get it good and clean. So I can see where my contacts are silver there. There's silver here. You can just barely kind of see the copper color coming through there. So that means I've got it good and clean there. That's what I'll do. I'll clean until I just start seeing copper. And do not use compressed air here or anything that's going to add moisture inside of your PCM here. Okay, that's good. Make sure you knock all the residual dust off of it, and that's what we're looking for right there. I don't know if you can see that, but silver contact on the contacts on the circuit board itself. You can just kind of see some copper on the bottom of it. That means we've got it good and clean. We're going to be able to make good contact there. So that's prepping the circuit board, the most important part of this. The second most important part of this is on the case that holds the PCM. As soon as you see it, and the way that the ECM sits in here, the PCM sits in here. What you're going to want to do when you first see it, and one of the biggest mistake that people make is they want to cut this section of the case out so they can take their chip off and on whenever they want to with it installed in the truck without having to go through all this. Do not do that. Do not do that. If you do that, what you're going to do, if you cut this part of the case off, to where you can take your chip off and on however you want to, what will happen is the chip will be able to ride inside of here. Let me show you. What the chip's going to be able to do is the chip will be able to walk inside of here. So I'm going to mock the chip up here real quick and put it on. Then I'm going to show you inside of the case here. So if you were to cut this out, what would happen is the chip would be able to actually move back and forth. If the chip can move back and forth, what can happen is it can cross contacts and it can actually short out your entire PCM. So I just wanted to show you that for sure on your installation. But what we are going to do to the box to make our installation a little simpler for us is we're actually going to cut a hole in it for our wire. So I'm kind of going to mock this up how it's going to be in the truck, so I know about where I'm going to be. So I'm going to cut a hole for my switch wire to go through. I'm just going to use a step drill here, kind of a little bit higher. What I want my hole big enough to where, my cord can go through, my switch cord can go through. So what I'll do is I'll take my switch and I'll route it through my case just like this, okay? So with my switch routed through my case, I'm going to take it, I'm going to go ahead and install my switch onto my the TS chip. And you want to install your switch with the ridge. You'll see a ridge right there, a locking ridge. You want the ridge to be up to where it engages the chip lock. Okay, so that's got your chip assembled here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually run that through the case, and we're going to simply put the chip onto the PCM itself. So when you're installing your chip, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you keep everything out of the way and keep the chip up so you're not hitting any of the resistors that are in the computer now. And you simply want to push it onto the computer board. Don't overthink it. Just go ahead and install it and make sure it's made good contact. Now pulling it back into the case, we're just going to push her right down. Remember, our sticker side goes towards the emergency brake. We'll turn that around, and then that's about perfect. And that's what you want. You want this hole to not be any bigger than the chip. That way the chip is still secured by the case and it can't walk. Okay, so now with our chip installed onto our PCM, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reinstall our PCM into the truck and get ready to mount our switch itself. All right, now we're going to put our PCM back in. So all we're going to do is reattach to our PCM bracket. Simple enough, just a reverse of removal. Tighten down our 2 7-metric bolts. Tighten up our case. Now we're going to reinstall our bracket here. Make sure that you be mindful of your switch. Keep your switch to where it's not getting bound up. We're going to install it later. That's right. We'll install our nut here. Reinstall our bolt at the top. All right, let's talk a little bit about the switch itself that comes with the TS Performance 6-position switch. This 6-position switch is exactly that, a 6-position switch. So you'll have a card that'll come inside the box that'll tell you what every position is, what horsepower it is. So just kind of show you how the clicks work on this switch. You know, all the way to the left, just like the volume knob on a radio, is off. So all the way to our left is our stock position. That's number 1. Second position to your right or clockwise is high idle. Third position to the right is 50. Fourth is 75. Fifth is 100, and the 6th and final position is 140. So unless you've ordered the chip a different way, unless you special ordered it a different way. So one of the things that goes on a lot with the switches is sometimes if there is a washer under here that will change the position. I'm going to show you that. If something happens and you get your switch and it goes more than 6 positions, do not install it until you get the problem fixed, because it's not going to operate correctly. So if you want to do this and also to install the switch itself, and that's why I'm going to take it apart, we just use a 2-metric Allen wrench. There's a set screw in here. We're going to go ahead and loosen up the set screw, and what that'll do is that'll allow us to pull the knob itself off. Now you can see on the knob where the set screw is, the set screw goes to a flat part of the switch. See how the switch is round, but it's got a flat part right here? That's where your set screw's got to sit. So it's actually just going to go on here one way once it locks down. Now the chip or the position itself, the little locking ring itself is underneath of this nut, and that one's good and tight, so it wouldn't have gone anywhere. But what can happen here is if this nut loosens up, and when the nut loosens up, what that's going to do is that's going to allow that locking ring to move underneath of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab me a pair of pliers here, and I'm going to loosen up this nut and show you the locking ring underneath of it. Okay, we've got our hole drilled now. What we're going to do is go ahead and install our switch. Go ahead and put our switch through the hole. Tighten down our brass nut. I like to turn the switch to where the off position will kind of be down at my 7 o'clock position there. We'll just give the nut just a couple of turns to snug it down. Okay. Then we'll install our knob back on. So our chip turns free there. All right. Now we're just going to go ahead and lock our panel back down. Okay, now we're going to reconnect our PCM connection on the outside of the truck. And what you want to do here is, and I know that you can't see this really well, but you want to make sure that you take care and get your wire loom lined up correctly with the PCM, and kind of push it and get it started in there. Then the 10 metric bolt on the outside, you should be able to begin threading it with your fingers. If you can't, that means you've got something wrong. You've got it cross threaded, and you do not want to cross thread this bolt. So take care, take your time, make sure you get everything threaded the right way. Again, it's 10 metric. Just go ahead and give it a couple turns with the ratchet to tighten it down. Okay, now that we've got our PCM loom in, we're going to go ahead and put our battery cables on and start the truck. Now, a couple words about the chip installation. Number one, if you start the truck and you've got a check engine light on, what you'll want to do is you'll want to stop immediately and give us a call. We'll have to double check the DAC code, or the codes on the computer, make sure that you've received the right thing. The three most important things to take away from this video is, number one, the installation of this. Well, the installation of the chip is an easy installation as long as you take your time and know what you're doing. But if you don't take your time, you can mess up your PCM. So you've got to be careful with this. So the first most important thing that you want to remember to do is make sure that you unhook both battery cables from both batteries before you start anything. The second most important thing is, when you get to the chip, you want to make sure you get the contacts clean on the chip, on the circuit board, before you install the chip. If you don't get the contacts good and clean, you won't be able to make good contact, and the chip's not going to work, period. It could throw some check engine lights on you. The third most important thing is, do not, under any circumstance, cut the box to where you can remove, where you can install and remove the chip without having to remove the plastic holding box that holds the PCM to the firewall. Do not cut a hole in that box where you can take your chip off and on. As long as you follow those three things, you're going to be okay. So This truck, we're going to install our battery cables and we're going to get her back running, give her back to the customer. If you have a question about this installation or any other installations, if you have any questions about a chip or any of your PCM when it comes out your PCM codes, please don't hesitate to call us, because we definitely want to see you have a running truck that you're happy with, as opposed to something that doesn't run and you're not very happy with. So if you got a question on this or anything else, just give us a call. Thank you.